Welcome to the Riverfront Bengals show, the very show that some folks are claiming to be the sixth most dangerous podcast in all of Micronesia. I'm your host, Nate Dotson. That handsome devil over there is your co-host, Joe Farfsing. And Joe, I don't know about you, man, but I feel like we finally get to record this bad boy in the mood and the spirit with the vibes that we've been wanting to all season. How the heck are you, brother?
Doing fantastic. We keep Micronesia. That is our key demo right there. Work out, just to try to work over in Southeast Asia. I think Malaysia likes me. I need you to work on your on your appeal to the Indonesian market, but we'll talk about that.
Some have referred to us as the K-pop of the boy band of the podcasting sphere. So we got that going for us.
Is that? I was going to say, is that a compliment?
I was trying to figure out what a K-pop band was. I think it was like BTS. Is that the big one?
I thought that was a serial killer in Kansas, but that's BTK. Never mind. Damn it.
Yeah, those BTS fans are rabbits. So let's not make them mad. Oh man, we are 90 seconds in. We're already off the rails here. I love it.
That didn't take long.
But before we do get started, please, if you don't mind, folks, heck, even if you do mind, go give us a like, follow, subscribe, whatever it is on however you take us in. It helps us, I swear. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. So let's just jump right into week 7. Quick recap for you. Joe Burrow, Boyd, and the Bengals wasted no time getting on the board with the NFL's best player with the initials TB, catching a 60-yard strike on the first possession of the game. The offense didn't slow down much after that either, as Joey B put up 345 yards in the first half alone, with the offense scoring points on their first 4 possessions. Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase added to the fun with 1 and 2 first half touchdowns, respectively. And, hey, man, remember when we were complaining about the slow starts? God, that seems like a long time ago. The defense held Atlanta's vaulted run game to just 107 yards, continued their streak of games without allowing a second half touchdown to 7. And I'm no scientist, but that's pretty damn good. And aside from a rough 39-second stretch to close the first half, Cincinnati played what was by far their best all-around game of the season. With Burrow's 481 yards in the air, 5 players getting 3 or more catches, Tyler Boyd and Jamar Chase eclipsing the 100-yard mark, Joe Mixon and T. Higgins coming a hair from doing that themselves. Cincinnati did the Still family proud, cruising to a 35-17 victory. Joe, how exactly do you feel about what we witnessed on Sunday?
First off, how awesome was it to see Leah and Devin Still? Not only with the ruler of the jungle before game, and then just seeing them more and everything. That was fabulous.
If you didn't get goosebumps from that, then get out of here.
Absolutely, yeah. And they just kept rolling from there. I mean, yeah, like you said, first 4 drives they went down and scored. They punted twice the entire game. They turned over on downs, and then one. My favorite drive of the game was the one at the end. They took over with just under 9 minutes left, and they drove all the way down to the 1 and was able just to kneel it out. Like that was awesome to be able to do that, just drain that much of the clock. And, yeah, it was – everyone was fearing the Atlanta's running game, and they held them to 3.7 yards a pop. That was the number one running game, or depending on the metric you use, one of the top 2 or 3 running games in the entire NFL. And they held them solid. So – a lot of positives come out of this game.
Yeah, glad you brought that up. So let's dive right into the defense. Aside from that little stretch at the end of the first half, it's another really, really solid day. Atlanta only had 231 total yards in the game. No one for the Falcons, you could say, really had a good day. I mean, Mitch Wilcox outperformed Kyle Pitts, and that was certainly not on my bingo card. I mean, yeah, the defense was lights out. That Cheeto Awuzie hit to keep Kyle Pitts out of the end zone was probably my favorite play of the game.
Yeah.
They still ended up scoring on that drive, but he just poleaxed him. I loved it. I don't have anything bad to say about the defense. Even that little stretch wasn't. I mean, you can point to 1 or 2 little things, which led to those 10 points. So just an all around great game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was looking at it, in the macro and the larger view. Yeah, there's very little to complain about it. And we'll get into this more later, but I'm still absolutely flabbergasted that Atlanta threw 13 passes as they're down 3 scores.
Yeah, especially because, like you said, they held Atlanta to 3.7 yards per carry in the day, and Atlanta came in averaging 4.8. So you'd think that even though everybody knew they were going to run the ball, you would think when that wasn't working, you might try something else. But yeah, let's not bury the lead there. I feel like I saw somewhere, you have noted second half loot. The defense allowed 40 yards in the second half.
Longest drive was 23 yards out of their 4 second half drives. Yeah, I mean,
ridiculous.
Again, I don't know, and I actually heard listened to Brian Callahan in an interview talking about like people make a big deal out of halftime adjustments. They're only in the locker room for like 7-8 minutes, so it's not really so much as halftime adjustments so much as just they take that first half, kind of get a feel of how the game's flowing, what the other team's trying to do, and then they just absolutely take away what you want to do. You want to run the ball? Tough shit. You want to throw the ball? Tough shit. Try it. It's not going to happen. So,
yeah, I love it. That was the thing that people used to praise all those Belichick, Brady, Patriots teams for. It's like Belichick was the world's best at taking what you want to do the most away from you. And it seems like the Bengals have been able to do that. And, we saw it this week, and they're going to have a tough test next week, needing to do the same thing. But we'll get into that shortly. The offense was just an explosion from the coin flip, man. It was a four-headed monster right now. Over the last 4 games, Joe Burrow is within 80 yards passing of Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen. He's just playing at an elite level. And I even went back and got the last 4 games Josh Allen played because I know the Bills were on a bye last week. He's right there with the top couple guys in the entire NFL. Their top 3 wide receivers are all in the top 25 in the NFL in yards per game. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are top 12 in yards per target. And I love that stat because it just means that they're making things happen when given the opportunity more than just about everybody else in the league. I love it. The complementary pieces are clicking. Hayden Hurst and Joe Mixon are also like in the top 50 in the league in receptions per game. Your tight end that nobody heard of before this year, and your running back. So they're just getting contributions from all over the field, and it's really, really freaking fun to watch right now. What are you seeing out there?
Yeah, I mean, this week kind of almost I might even be more impressive than the 525 game against the Ravens because there are no interceptions. He wasn't trying for a record, so there was no he was more just trying to run the clock down to the end of the game. He could have thrown for more. He could have challenged Norman Rockland's 554 for record for most yards in a game. But yeah, 34-42, 81% passing, 481 yards, 3 touchdowns in the air. And the touchdowns, 2 of them were absolute dimes. The one over the shoulder to Chase that he just dropped in over the cornerback and perfect placement before the safety got over. The one to Boyd that the safety fell down on, it didn't matter if he had his feet or not. He just absolutely hit Boyd right in stride. The game plan, the play call was perfect. It was against cover 2, and they went deep on it. So they're showing, they're learning, they're adjusting. You have a safety. Well, you send 2 guys at him. He's got to cover one or the other. So one receiver is going this way, one receiver, make him choose, and wherever he chooses, throw the other guy.
It was great. And he was taking those 8 to 12 yards, the quick slants and outs from Hayden Hurst. I said Mitch Wilcox and his 3 catches. He was taking what was available the entire game, and it was available the entire game.
Well, and he was hitting shots downfield too, though. I mean, even the Chase's second touchdown where he made the cut and, as he put it, jogged for the last 30 yards, which he, as fast as he was going, and he and even Burrow was mic'd up, and you hear him talking about it to Chase like, you weren't even running, were you? He was like, no. And he just cut across the field and outran 5 guys as he's in a jog. I mean, that throw was 15 yards downfield. Hit a hole shot to Boyd 25 yards downfield. Another huge 20-yard plus gain to Higgins along the sideline. He was taking every throw he wanted to make. Intermediate shots, deep shots, underneath stuff. And, this wasn't how they've been playing and just checking down because the deep ball isn't there. They're throwing the deep ball, make them cover.
That's right.
What they said. They're going for it. I mean, hell with it. If you're going to try to take it away, well, screw it. We're going to try them now. We're not going to be afraid. So and that's attack. That's what we've been talking about here. Attack.
For sure. And it seems like he's been more accurate these last couple of weeks. He looks more comfortable. it's no surprise the way the offensive line is playing so much better. Certainly not lights out, but they're playing well enough right now. And this is something that occurred to me the other day. Do you think that maybe this is an argument for playing these guys together, given the opportunity in the preseason a little bit?
Maybe. I mean, this was a complete unique situation because you have 4 new starters. You had a rookie 4th rounder that was in a position battle. He played. Cordell Volson played first 2 games. He didn't play the last game. Kappa and Lyle Collins, who knows how much they would have been available to play anyway because they were coming off of injuries. Kappa had the core surgery and Collins had the back issue. So who knows how much they would have really played. Burrow wasn't back because he was coming back from the appendix. So
yeah, very good points.
In an ideal situation when your quarterback isn't coming back from surgery, everyone's healthy and set, and you have 4 new starters. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to see them, just to get them some live bullet reps. But again, how many reps are you really seeing in a preseason game? Even in the old school 4 preseason games, you'd see them for one half. What is that? 30 plays, maybe 25 plays. And then, a handful of plays in the first 2 games. You're still not seeing them a ton. So at most, maybe 1 game was worth of reps. So I don't think that was it. I think it was more having 4 new starters who were, who just didn't. I mean, it was more practice than game.
That's true. The fact of the matter is, if these guys are all back next year, you wouldn't need that preseason as much because they would at least have a full season playing together under their belts.
Yeah. And if everyone's healthy, and if everyone's healthy, they're all getting the reps in camp. Even if they're playing on air, they're still, you're still working out the communication issues. And I think that's what it is. It's just they didn't, there's a lot of communication. Again, back to Dave Lapham's thing. Your offensive linemen are 4 hands and a fist, wrap it around. It's a hell of a lot stronger as a fist than as individual. You're not playing as a full fist when you're still getting to know. It doesn't matter how strong the individual is. Now they've got the communication down. They're working a lot better as a unit, and you're seeing each individual player, their performance is steadying too. So,
yeah, you really are. Can't say enough about Tyler Boyd, the way he went off. Well, shoot, let's jump right in. We didn't have as much to complain about as we had in weeks past. I'm sure we can find a couple nits to pick, but let's jump into some awards and accolades and start out with the honorary Olivia Newton-John Stud.
Tell me about it, Stud.
Oh, sweet. Rest in peace, Olivia Newton-John. One of the first crushes of my childhood.
A Grease reference, swear to God.
Come on, you cannot hate on Grease. That movie's fantastic. Fun for the whole family. Except for Rizzo. She was the worst. How you gonna be like 50 and be playing a high school senior? Get out of here with that.
Yeah, but that's casting. But Grease.
Rizzo.
John Travolta.
Legend. Other studs besides John Travolta. Who you got this week, Joe?
Jonah Williams. He was lights out. Pass blocking, run blocking. He had a 79.6 grade. This is the Jonah Williams that we were expecting from week 1. This was the reason he was the lone holdover. He's not an all-pro. He's not a Pro Bowler, but he should be a solid piece on your offensive line, and he was great.
Especially considering that it was like a couple quarters ago when he dislocated his knee.
Yeah, that hurts.
So just incredible effort from him again. Who you got next?
Hakeem Adeniji. He had an 80.4 pass blocking grade. He and Lyle Collins were kind of swapping in and out. Collins was having a little physical issues, and Adeniji was fantastic. His pass blocking grade was best on, I think second best on the team total. He did a great job, and if he can show that, now granted, Atlanta Falcons, they don't have Michael Parsons, they don't have TJ Watt, but I mean these are professional athletes that are that they have. Like this isn't someone coming off some JUCO player. He had 0 pressures. He did fantastic in pass rush.
Yeah, that one caught me off guard a little bit. I certainly was pleasantly surprised. And it seems like they've gotten a lot of these guys, including the one you're going to talk about next. But these players that are contributing that are second or third in the depth chart of their position. It seems like they're more comfortable with their backups than just about any team I remember watching, and it's awesome. So speaking of that next guy, who's your third stud for the week?
This guy is the absolute replacement player of the week. Jay Tufle.
Let's go.
87.2 grade overall. Run blocking was over 90. He was absolutely fantastic. That's literally one hair behind what DJ Reader gives you on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah.
And this is a guy they picked up off of waivers at the end of the season. Drafted last year by Jacksonville. You can't blame it. Anyone that got drafted by Jacksonville last year under Urban Meyer, they pretty much had a completely lost rookie season. He was on, Bengals picked him up end of camp, and he, at the very least, they've got a solid rotational player to mix in with Tupou when he gets healthy and when Reader comes back. So that only bodes well. That's only good things for down the rest of the season. So he was fantastic. Just splash plays, tackles for loss, just eating space, keeping the blockers off the second level.
Yeah, just incredible to see. Another one of these guys that you don't necessarily expect, and you're just kind of, when he gets put into the game after Reader goes out, and after Tupou goes out, I mean, these guys can just be okay. That's all you want, just be okay. And then they come out and put up elite Pro Bowl level grades. It's incredible. The only other stud I wanted to mention, aside from the entire offense, we should definitely throw out some of these stats. You mentioned Burrows, Tyler Boyd, 8 receptions for 155 yards and a touchdown. Jamar Chase, 8 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Incredible effort all around there. But the only other stud I wanted to specifically point out was Cheeto Awuzie, specifically for that freaking hit that he put on Kyle Pitts. And he hit a solid 74.5% or 74.5 coverage grade, but that hit, man, good Lord. Just go YouTube that bad boy when you get a second. You will not be disappointed. It's worth a look.
Yeah, you don't expect a cornerback, and he's not a big cornerback, putting that big of a hit on a huge tight end. And they got screwed. Atlanta was fighting for a touchdown on that. They put the ball on the goal line. He was bobbling the ball until he landed on the ground at the 1.5. They put the ball at the 1-inch line. They ran it in the next play. That should have been a 1.5 yards back. I don't know why. I don't know why they didn't check the spot when they checked whether he was in for a touchdown or not. So
they must have gotten the call from New York. They got the call from New York and said, "Guys, this game's getting out of control. We need to help them out a little bit. Falcons a little closer."
Falcons have covered all 6 weeks, but we gotta keep that streak going. Vegas is calling. Exactly. They're getting a little antsy.
But Joe, where there are studs, there must also be Randy Watson's duds.
Yes, Randy Watson. That boy is good. Mm-hmm. Good and terrible.
Thank you for making that clip, reminding me of that, bring it back into my life. Who is your first of Randy Watson's honorary duds this week?
I think I actually phrased it the sexual chocolate. I got to get myself together here. Hang on.
I can tell you, spoiler alert, there are no duds on the offense.
Yeah. The regular contributors, they're receivers, running backs, offensive line, that nobody, everybody had a solid to great grade. Only a few on defense. Tyler Shelvin was the 4th rounder from last year from LSU. Only brought him up because they needed depth at the D tackle. He was terrible. I mean, he's 350 pounds and he gets pushed around like he's 250. 37.9 grade. He doesn't give you anything on the pass rush and just can't maintain the blocks or, fill holes or anything. So get well soon, DJ and Tupou. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more there. You don't expect that guy to crush, but it was so we'll find some nits to pick, and that is one. This last one, we got to go in on it. Who's your last dud for the day?
Hate to say it. Well, granted, I've been saying it since training camp, but Kevin Huber. He's the 30th graded punter overall in the entire league. That first punt, Mike Thomas missed the tackle immediately on the punt returner. It was 39 yards on a line drive, as easy to field as anything. They get a 56-yard punt return immediately, and they've got 3 seconds left to kick the field goal. I don't hold that against the defense at all. They literally didn't have a play. It went straight from special teams to special teams. He's near the bottom of the league in punting average, near the bottom of the league in net average. And then there is this note that coming up pregame that I saw from several sources, Paul Dehner, Jay Morrison, some of the other beat reporters. Drew Chrisman was bombing 70-yard punts in pregame. And it's like, you have him there for a reason. You have Chrisman, like you're keeping him around on your practice squad for a reason, because he's got a hell of a leg. Bengals don't need this angle, someone who can pin them, from midfield. They're either kicking field goals or they're going for it. They don't need the guy who's going to, angle it out of bounds at the 3-yard line. They need someone, if they have a drive backed up at the 15-yard line, that's going to absolutely flip the field position and kick it to the other 20. So, so they've got, so they don't have a short field. And it's not Kevin Huber. It was never Kevin Huber, but he was at least average. Now he's a liability.
Yeah, that punt you referenced, like, what the hell, man? I mean, if you're going to kick it short, at least kick it high. Give the defense time to get down there. Give the Gunners a chance. It was bad, and yeah, there's a couple other things that happened on that play, but they wouldn't have had the opportunity to happen if it would have been even an average punt. And, people are starting to take notice. We're starting to hear more and more of these rumblings. It was a preseason storyline, but then it kind of goes away because how often do you focus on the punter? Well, you don't focus on the punter very often unless he's doing a pretty bad job. And 30th rated in the league is a bad job. The only other dud that I want to point out, and I would definitely want to get your thoughts on this, Eli Apple. He was the worst graded defender, and I think that's 2 weeks in a row. If I'm not mistaken, he's been the worst defender on the entire Bengals squad. Lost snaps to Cam Taylor-Britt. He was outsnapped 28-16. Most of those in the second half. I think it's really noteworthy because Lou Anarumo's comments a week or so ago about never, an emphatic never rotating defensive backs. So he sure wasn't afraid to do it this game, and it's not like Cam Taylor-Britt had a wonderful game by any means. And this is certainly the game to get him more reps when you're winning big, and it sounds like it was at least somewhat the plan anyway. But how do you see this playing out going forward?
Yeah, you look at his score on, or you look at the grade that Pro Football Focus gave him, and it was really poor. And it's kind of funny because he only had one pass thrown his way. It was for 7 yards. So those are the kind of the grades that he kind of just throw in the garbage. Because he was on the field for 28 snaps. It was their plan coming in to give him some run. That the game got that far out of hand is the reason they kept him in a lot more. The one drive that Atlanta had, that long 10-minute long touchdown drive, he was in until they got to the red zone. Then they brought Eli in, but Eli giving up an absolute bomb because I don't know if he forgot that there was no safety. It just completely got roasted, didn't get turned around in time, and just ran absolutely right past him for 70-yard one-play touchdown. So I think that the training camp battle that we were expecting, that everyone expected before his core injury, I think that's going to happen. I think they're going to have a lot more of a closer share. And from the way it looks, Taylor-Britt is a good run defender. He's a big-bodied, a lot bigger-bodied cornerback than Apple. When especially you got a lot more running teams up, I wouldn't be surprised to see them have a more 50-50 split for a few weeks, and then after the bye week, after 2 more weeks, to see Britt get a lot more, the lion's share, possibly being the starter. So,
yeah, another run-heavy team next week to be going up against, and a team that I can't imagine Lou Anarumo is going to be too scared, at least, of their quarterback position, Jacoby Brissett. So, would not shock me at all to see CTB get a lot more burn next week. So, we'll find out, but that's enough negativity. It was an awesome freaking game. The Bengals putting up 30 points back-to-back weeks. The offense is clicking. Let's give out some awards, my man. All right, for your first award, it is the – hold on a second. Boom.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
The bold strategy Cotton Award for worst call of the week. Who do you got, Joe?
That would be Atlanta's game plan. They had 19 total dropbacks, 13 passing attempts, 3 sacks, and 3 scrambles. I get they're a run-heavy team. They're one of the most. Only Chicago, I think, ran the ball going into the week. Ran the ball more frequently than they did. You're down 3 scores. You've got Kyle Pitts and Drake Leonard. You spent top 10 picks on the both of them for a reason. Mm-hmm. Kyle Pitts had 3 catches for 9 yards. Drake London had 1 catch for 15. I can't remember. I don't remember exactly what his stat line was. But again, at what point do you realize, especially when you're not running as efficiently as possible and you're getting boat race, throw the damn ball.
It was mind-blowing. I don't get it. It's like Arthur Smith just wants fantasy teams to die. He hates fantasy football, so he's trying to screw over everybody he can. I mean, that 75-yard touchdown play that Eli Apple got burned on. I mean,
yeah,
it's not like they didn't have success. And when they were getting waxed, it was crazy to me that they didn't at least try. And there were several instances where they got first downs on 3rd and long by airing it out, but they only threw it on 3rd and long, it seemed like. So I don't know what the hell he was thinking. It's not the first time he's done it, but man, it was weird. Our next award for the week is the Billy Madison. I'm the smartest man alive.
I am the smartest man alive!
Good call of the week award. Who you got for your good call this week, Joe?
Bengals not forcing the run game. They ran the ball 13 times over the first 3.5 quarters. They ran it 9 times on the last drive. You don't need to force the damn running game. If it's not there, and it hasn't been there all year, Mixon's had a couple games where he's been a lot more efficient, but they have, the quick passing game. It's just an extension of the run game. You don't need to run the damn thing. If they plan on force feeding Joe the ball 25, 30 times, they're not going to win. That's not their game plan. That's, clearly they found out that their offensive line isn't cut out to block that way. If they're running successfully, great, run it more frequently. But if you're not running, then don't run. Simple game plan. Throw the ball more. Spread them out. Spread them sideline to sideline. I mean, they seem to have figured something out, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, it was great. Joe Mixon had another, was like 3.3 or something
3.4,
yards per carry again. Last week, seeming like more of a flash in the pan than the new norm. So we'll see. We've talked about it a bunch on here. You don't need the run game, the traditional run game, when you are executing on your early downs already. So encouraging that they're finding ways to not just win, but thrive without that traditional run game. So we'll be monitoring that going forward. So let's move on to our personal awards this week. Joe, yours is the Comb the Desert Award that we'll see if it takes some explanation. Hang tight.
Are we being too literal?
No, you fool. We're following orders. We were told to comb the desert, so we're combing it.
Found anything yet? Nothing yet, sir. How about you?
Not a thing, sir.
What about you guys? We ain't found shit.
Now, see,
I love it.
Nate, for you, because you haven't seen the movie, that's a reference that's from Spaceballs. Now you're gonna have to watch some Mel Brooks to get the whole,
Yeah, I got some homework to do. Explain this award.
That award goes to the Atlanta Falcons secondary. I think it kind of goes without saying. They couldn't find Jamar Chase or Tyler Boyd with magnifying glass. They were wide open all game long. Safety, and I can't remember if it was Grant. I can't remember whatever safety it was that fell down on the Richie Grant fell down on the long pass to Boyd. They were absolutely lost. They had no idea where they were going. So, and again, I just want to throw some Mel Brooks in there.
It was great. It won't be the last time we get some Mel Brooks. I am going with the Star Wars What Do You Mean Naked Award.
I beg your pardon, but what do you mean, naked? My parts are showing. My goodness.
That's a prequel award for you. I know everybody loves it. And this one goes out to T. Higgins, who dropped what was pretty much the greatest quote of all time. When asked how open Tyler Boyd was on a 60-yard touchdown catch in the first quarter, Higgins responded, he was booty butt naked. And I've got to be honest with you, Joe. I have no idea what that means.
It means he was uncovered, booty butt naked. Like there's nothing covering you. Now,
I love it.
As smooth as he dropped that, he's used that before.
Oh, he's had to, and I'm going to start finding ways to use it as much as humanly possible, especially when it makes no sense. Like, how's your day? Booty butt naked. Is it supposed to rain later? Booty butt naked. I don't know. If anybody can send me a clip of him saying that, because I only read the transcripts. If anybody can send me the audio, I would love to have that. Team at riverfrontcincy.com, please and thank you.
It'll be it was a locker room interview, so it'll definitely be in somebody got video of it.
I was cracking up all week. So that pretty much wraps us up for our Week 7 coverage. Looking at the standings, the Bengals are still tied with the Baltimore Ravens at 4-3. Unfortunately, the Bengals are 0-2 in the division, so Baltimore is going to have that tiebreaker for a little while, which puts a lot of emphasis on next Monday's game. Both the Browns and the Steelers are 2-5, and that's pretty gross for them. Not for us. I love seeing them struggle. Joe, what do you know about injuries? Any injury updates or news going to Monday Night Football?
Yeah, nothing really updated since Monday. With them playing Monday night, their press conferences are on a Thursday afternoon instead of Wednesday. They're a lot more optimistic about Logan Wilson playing this game. I would expect, especially given that there's another day, I would expect to see him. Trey Hendrickson had the stinger, had the neck issue.
Mm-hmm.
They said it's day to day. I think when Thursday when they come out for practice, depending on if he's partial or full participant or just working on the side, that's going to start when you start going to have any words about what his participation is going to be. So wait and see. Optimistic. I'm optimistic about Logan for sure.
Yeah, and having that extra day is pretty nice. We should mention DJ Reader. As we predicted on this very show, it's looking like he is likely to return after the bye week. That meaning week 11 against the Steelers. So he seems progressing really well. Just not rushing with his whole disaster. So moving on to next week, Week 8, Battle of Ohio, Joe.
The Boo.
Facing the Cleveland Browns on Monday Night Football, which also happens to be Halloween. I am going to have the house to myself for the evening and will be firmly planted on my couch, porch light off. No trick-or-treaters interrupting this game. I don't have TiVo.
What you're saying is you're going to be booty butt naked watching the game.
I'm going to be booty butt naked watching this game.
No,
kids, come on by the house.
Kids stay. God, kids stay away. We don't need him to have to move, so he's not close enough to a school. That's just we don't want
fully clothed. I'll just set the candy outside. Like, help yourself.
Grab one, yeah. By the way, can we talk about how much bullshit it is that all three of the Bengals or road division games are all primetime games, and they are and I meant to look up the stat. For it's been a long, long time since they have won a road primetime game. You tell me the schedule makers didn't have that in mind when they did that.
Yeah, their streak on Sunday Night Football was something ridiculous. They mentioned a couple of weeks ago, but I don't remember what it was. It was bad. They've won, like, I don't know, 1990 or some shit. It is what it is. You have to they really need to win this week. Like I said, teams with Super Bowl aspirations don't tend to start out 0-3 in the division. A couple of those early losses, I mean, the Cowboys loss doesn't look nearly as bad 7-8 weeks out. Dallas is a pretty solid team. Pittsburgh loss could haunt them. It could haunt them in a bad way. So you really need to start trying to make up some of that ground, in this, starting in Week 8. So we'll see. What are some of the matchups that you were kind of looking out for?
It's really, really similar to what last week's was. You've got a team that doesn't throw the ball particularly well and a team that runs the ball really well in the Browns, and the Bengals at the converse. They throw the ball really well, but they don't run the ball really well. And then same thing on defense. Browns have a porous pass defense, so you should not be sitting anybody on the Bengals roster if you have them in fantasy. Start all of them. Start Samaj P. Ryan, Mitchell Wilcox, Mike Thomas, Trenton Irwin. Start them all. It's going to be an aerial show again.
Yeah, the only matchup there that could be kind of fun, Denzel Ward, if he plays versus Jamar Chase, might be worth watching. Myles Garrett sort of represents a force on defense that Atlanta didn't have. Garrett has 6 sacks, 7 QB hits, and 2 forced fumbles on the year. So seeing how they protect Joe Burrow against Myles Garrett, it's going to be worth keeping an eye on. You mentioned the Browns have kind of struggled against the run. They've given up 4.7 yards per catch. We know that they've gone away from their under center game, but it seems like Zach Taylor really still wants the run to be a thing. So don't be surprised if they've seen that stat and try to capitalize on their struggling run defense. A couple other little things to note: Cleveland has lost 4 in a row, and the common denominator in all those losses is that Nick Chubb said under 20 carries in each and over 20 carries in their 2 wins. I'd be surprised if that happens again because Nick Chubb is a freaking stud, man. That guy's good.
Yeah, he's carries more than any other running back in the league. If they had a solid 2 years ago when they had a lot more balanced offense, even with Baker Mayfield under center, I mean, he's absolutely fantastic. He's fast enough to run past you, big enough to run through you. He's got the best stiff arm outside of Derrick Henry. I mean, he's just an absolute stud. That's another thing Bengals need. If the Bengals can start like they did this past week and hit on some touchdowns on the first couple of drives, just to push that run game, back as push them towards having to throw the ball more to keep up. That's I think that's key.
Yeah, that could end up being really, really important. Cheeto Uze versus Amari Cooper. I really like that matchup for Cincinnati. Amari Cooper is perfectly adequate, cromulent, as is a popular word for this podcast and others on the Riverfront Network. But Cheeto's playing at just a super, super high level right now, and it's about time that people start noticing. The last sort of little tidbit here: Joe Burrow, winless in his career against the Cleveland Browns. So hopefully that's not the case anymore come Tuesday morning.
Yeah, I think that breaks the streak. I mean, back onto the Browns pass offense. David Njoku has the second most targets. He's out of the game with an ankle sprain. So
that's true.
It's going to be Harrison Bryant starting. They don't have any other wide receivers outside of Amari Cooper that scare you. Donovan Peoples-Jones is fine.
He's good. He's good.
He'd be the 5th wide receiver on the Bengals. So, I mean, there's no reason to think that the Bengals will lose. That doesn't mean they won't, because it's the NFL and it's been drunk as hell the past few weeks. For those that aren't in our Slack family, we're running a survivor pool. We are now through 7 weeks. We have completely run it through twice because A, we suck at picking winners, and B, this season has just been batshit crazy. I mean, who would have thought that the Panthers were going to beat the Fighting Tom Brady's 21-3?
Yeah, none of this.
It's been
None of this makes sense. Even when the Patriots started looking good, they get waxed by the Bears on Monday Night Football. The Bears it doesn't make any sense. I like it. It's fun. It's entertaining. But a couple other things. There was a drive in the Week 7 game where Zach Taylor elected to go for it instead of running out the field goal unit. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but some people were talking about it in that Slack channel. And that Slack channel is for our Patreon friends and family at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. I said it on the podcast we had a couple weeks ago. I have no problem going for it. I have no problem with them kicking it either. But the offense was clicking. They were maybe a phantom or a no call, pass interference, no call, or just T. Higgins making a play away from that working out for him. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
If you look at the odds, their win percentage went up a few points by going for it, then kicking the field goal. It really didn't, at that point, it was kind of elementary. It wasn't a huge deal, but I'm fine with them going for it. I think it's a lot better if you have a running back just to give a little bit of a threat of a run game. RPO, you only have 1 yard and you spread them out, empty backfield. Well, they know you're going to throw the ball. Unless they were to try something like a quarterback draw, which, oh, by the way, worked. But
I was hoping for a toss to Joe Mixon.
Those shovel pass
go really well. Shovel passes are highly recommended.
I think a shovel pass to bring in an extra tight end or an extra tackle, make him eligible, and little shovel pass to Adeniji, I'm game. That no one would see it coming.
That one play, and I had meant to talk about this earlier, at the end of the game when they faced a 4th down late and they put Hayden Hurst in motion, and then he ran back and lined up under center to take the snap, and it caused Cleveland to Atlanta to jump off sides, essentially ending the game. That was some creative play calling that I hadn't seen before.
That was fun as hell.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, and apparently that was the complete purpose of the play. That they weren't actually gonna run a play under center. It was just causing confusion and waiting for him to jump because you needed 2 yards. They were on the 4-yard line. False start gives them 2 yards, first down, one kneel in the game over. So
you could see on the sideline too, like the way the coaches were celebrating.
Yeah.
They knew that was the goal of that play. So that was fun. Shortly followed by Trent Taylor's awesome backflip on Joe Burrow's kneel down. Did you see that?
That was glorious. I mean,
it's incredible.
Apparently, his mom was Miss Fitness in Tennessee and Alabama. He's got some other people that are in gymnastics, or they're very highly athletic. So that's just what you do. Apparently, you do backflips.
I love it, Trent.
I break my neck.
Yeah, Trent Taylor's doing backflips, and I pulled my neck brushing my teeth last week. So professional athletes, they're just like us.
So glad you recovered.
Joe, you got any other final thoughts or notes before we get into some predictions and viewer mail?
Yeah, if you remember a few weeks ago, and those listening, you better remember, that means you've been listening for more than one episode. I was lamenting the lack of production by the rookies as a whole. Starting to see a turn. Dax has been fantastic. He's still only very limited plays. He only had 2 snaps last week. He's got his grade, he's got a crazy high grade, but again, it's only limited. But he's looked fine. He did that against the Saints on the very last play, offensive play that they had the pass breakup there when Eli kind of stumbled into the receiver. Cam Taylor-Britt is now pushing for more reps. His first game active, he got a whole lot of run. Zach Carter I thought he had a really good game this past week. Had a couple stops, had a tackle for loss, and he's more of a. They drafted him to give more of a pass rush than run as a D tackle, but he's starting to show some stuff. Volson is looking like a solid starter. Since week 1, he has given up a total of 8 pressures, 1 sack over 6 weeks. That'll play again. Run game, team's still kind of a work in progress there, but they tore up the game plan. Tyson Anderson's been on injured reserve. You're not going to get anything from him. I don't even know if they're going to bring him off. They might just take this as a redshirt year. They don't need any more safeties unless something were to happen to the other guys. Then they might activate them. But Jeff Gunner is hurt. He's not on injured reserve, but he hurt his knee in pre-games last week, which was weird. But he had the blocked field goal against Miami. So starting to see the rookies. Maybe this was their thing. The whole. Playing the whole way, just ease them in, unless you have to, and they're starting to pay off. So happy to see it.
Yeah, very encouraging. So how do you see this game going?
Well, one last note. Might want to edit this, but fuck Cleveland. Never mind about the city. This has nothing to do with the city. I mean, it's fine. Any team that pays $250 million to a raging piece of shit, Deshaun Watson, like they screwed over the entire salary structure for quarterbacks. There's a reason the Bengals don't do a lot of guaranteed money. To pay a guaranteed contract, that team has to have that entire sum of money in an escrow account. So if you're going to pay Joe Burrow $400 million guaranteed, you've got to have $400 million in a bank account. Bengals don't have that capital. I mean, they're owned by a team whose only money is, or owned by a family whose only money is in football. They don't have as much change as someone who's owned by a corporate. You've got the Walton family that bought the Broncos. They can guarantee all 53 contracts because they've got the amount of money to pay it out. To pay a guaranteed contract of that size to an absolute scumbag as Deshaun Watson is just sickening. They structured his contract so he'd lose. So he was only making $1 million this year. So knowing he'd be suspended, he's only losing a small amount of money. Haslam's are pieces of shit. They still have Kareem Hunt. He's a piece of shit. Anyway, how I feel the game's going to turn out. I think it's going to be similar script.
I was wondering how long it was going to take. 'Cause I knew you had some thoughts.
I have
Cleveland Browns. I was like, are we going to be able to?
I have thoughts. I mean, I've got thoughts on some Bengals too, but that's, we'll leave that alone for right now. I really think it's going to be a similar script to last week. I don't think the Bengals are going to stop the run as well as they did, but even if they hold them around their average and yardage and yards per carry, I still think they're going to win by 3 scores. You've got the much better quarterback. You've got the much better defense. It's going to be an air show again. Yeah, maybe they can run the ball more. I don't want to see them run the ball more. Just keep throwing the ball. Throw it all over the field. Run up the score. Shut those turds in the dog pound up. I have it as 34-17. I could actually see it get more out of hand than that. But
hey, well, I hope you're right. I've got a Bengals victory 31-21. I think that with a slightly better lead running back and a slightly better passing game, this one ends up being a little bit closer, though I don't think it's going to be as close as that final score. I think that Cleveland's going to put up some points late to get there, still not cover the spread. So, fingers crossed that one of us is right, because a double-digit win, any way you shake it, is something that none of us are going to be upset about. So let's jump into some viewer mail questions. As always, these questions come from our friends at patreon.com/riverfrontcincy. We also occasionally get one from our Twitter account, and that is Joe manning the keyboard there with occasional contributions from the rest of the team, and that is at TR Bengals Show, all one word, because I think that's how Twitter works. First question comes from Joey Gaditza. Joey says, "Hey guys, so these Bengals hammered the Falcons and are in tight at the top of the AFC North with the Ravens. I feel like this could be the beginning of a run for them heading to the bye in a couple weeks. Once they hit the bye, will they stand alone in first? I say yes. What say you, Joe?"
I'll let you know at about midnight tomorrow. They play Tampa. It kind of depends on how Tampa responds. They play New Orleans the week after that. They've got the same bye week. I think they'll beat New Orleans pretty handily. I think they'll probably, they're in Tampa. They should beat Tampa. I mean, Tampa just hasn't looked very good. And by that, they're both, I'd say both teams are going to go 2-0 and will be tied. But I do think the Bengals are going to win the next 2. So they'll at the very least be, worst case, they'll be tied for first place.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I'm going to go with yes and be a little more optimistic. Like you said, the Ravens and Bengals both have week 10 byes, 2 games remaining for each. I think Cincinnati has a little bit easier of a road with Cleveland and Carolina than Baltimore does with Tampa and New Orleans. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the Ravens lose one of those games. The problem is after that bye, the Ravens' schedule gets really, really light. So if Cincinnati can put a game in between them, that might be really, really helpful. So yeah, our next question comes from Seth Shaner. Seth says, "Is there anything better than the orange and black going up against the orange and brown?" And then he inserted a poop emoji, a turd emoji for the orange and Browns on Halloween. The biggest question for me is, can the team continue to operate without running the ball much? I like what I'm seeing, but wondering if weather might dictate a need to keep it on the ground at some point. What do you think, Joe?
No, I really don't think so. If you look at their schedule, the only game to where you can expect there to be any weather issues is Christmas Eve. They play in Foxborough. I don't know who all is from, people talk about the AFC North and you've got to run the ball because the weather turns crappy. It's not that cold in Cincinnati in December. We don't get a ton of snow. It'll be in the 40s, maybe a little bit of rain, maybe some wind, but you can't expect the weather to be crappy. Outside of that, they play at Tampa in December. They're home for Kansas City. That weather shouldn't be an issue there the first week. Home for Cleveland, not an issue. At Tampa Bay, you're not going to have any issues in Tampa in December. That's lucked out on that trip there. And the last 2 weeks they're home against Buffalo and Baltimore, and maybe when you get to January. But again, we don't get a ton of snow. It's not like we're going up to the Lambeau or playing up in Buffalo. So. Yeah, it might get a little cold, but Burrow proved these guys can throw the football in the cold weather. This is a 1975. Again, you want to be efficient in the run game. You don't need to run the ball a lot. You don't need to run the ball well. You don't need to run for 150 yards, but you need to be efficient just to keep that play action honest. Or if they're running more RPOs, which please keep running the RPOs. Just enough to keep the middle linebacker holding, or if you are running it successfully, it'll pull the safeties up to give you more room behind. So, but did they need to? No, I really don't think so.
Yeah, I understand the concern, but they need to have a running game more than they need to have a good running game.
Their running game was
the threat's still there, and they can still turn the clock, and they can get, if that 3.3 can become 3.8, then that's going to be enough with the threats they have out there and the way they run their offense. So I'm not too worried about it, Seth, but we will certainly be keeping an eye on it.
Well, if you look at the stretch run last season when they went on the big run, when they started winning all the games into the playoffs, run game wasn't doing anything. It was Burrow throwing for 425. It was Burrow throwing for 470 or whatever he threw against the Chiefs. It was them airing it out. The running game really didn't do much. So
that's right. So you kind of just put your finger, hit the nail on the head with the hammer and the words and the things. If Joe Burrow is going to throw for 400 plus yards every week, I mean, Joe Mixon can just be back there as the fourth or fifth receiver.
Yeah,
at that point, as long as he's not back there as a pass blocker.
Good Lord, no.
Next question comes from James Urban. James says, "Is this the end for Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers?" He also said we could leave this out because it's not Cincinnati related, but I don't care because this is kind of fun, and we don't need to go on for too long about it. But last week, those guys lost to a couple of XFL quarterbacks. My quick answer is just that I think we might have seen the end of Tom Brady. I think he's going to retire after this season. This is the first time in his career when, he sort of has lost the golden boy facade with everything that's been going on. He's not been there for his teammates, missing practices, missing a week of the preseason. It's just all been bad news in his camp. So I wouldn't be surprised if he had just finishes the season in a mediocre way. Tampa's in a terrible division, so they can still win the division and go 8-9 or something. But I don't see him playing anymore this year. I don't see him putting up any sort of those Tom Brady-esque numbers that we're used to. I don't feel the same about Aaron Rodgers. I think that he just doesn't have anybody to throw to, and they'll fix that in the offseason. I could be wrong. His ayahuasca trip may have just made him a more, at-peace person. He doesn't have the killer instinct anymore. But I think the talent's still there. He just doesn't have the weapons.
Yeah, I agree with you on both. One thing I have to say is, how much does Tom Brady hate his damn kids? I mean, Susan Smith, look her up. I think she cared for her kids more than Tom Brady. He's getting divorced because he decided to come back another year to spend less time with his family. But he can leave the Buccaneers for a night to go to Robert Kraft's wedding up in New York during a game week. Again, Tom Brady hates kids. Make sure we get this trending. I'll put it on Twitter. He hates kids.
Hey, I just want to be fair to Tom Brady here. We don't know that it's all of the kids. It might just be one. He might have a couple favorites in the mix, and just one turd ruining things for him.
Maybe.
He did.
One turn in the punch.
He has helped keep those kids in Gucci and gold, so he's shown some affection in other ways. But
he doesn't need to. His wife's a supermodel; she's got plenty of money on her own. But yeah, definitely Aaron Rodgers. Like he's just having a down streak. Like that, he's won with subpar receivers before. Aren't they so glad that they drafted Jordan Love instead of a receiver a couple years ago? Man, what a great call.
Devontae Adams would be pretty good on that team too.
Wouldn't hurt.
Our last question comes from Skylar Webker. Skylar asks, are there any moves that the Bengals should make at the deadline? If so, who should they target? It does seem like there's been more noteworthy trades this season in this past offseason than there usually are in the NFL. I would love to see a world where we can start treating the NFL trade deadline the way we do in baseball and basketball. But I don't know. I saw one person floating out there that defensive end Robert Quinn for the Bears could be available for as little as a third round pick, and maybe get Quinn in a late round pick, just as valuable depth behind Sam Hubbard and Trey Hendrickson. But I don't know. I don't have too many thoughts on that. They don't have too many glaring holes. What do you think?
That was actually going to be my call. Was Robert Quinn, and apparently the Eagles thought the same thing because 23 minutes ago they traded for Robert Quinn for draft picks.
Oh,
so
Twitter.
23 minutes ago it was reported. So Never mind.
The Eagles see the Bengals as so much of a threat that they went ahead and preemptively made that move. So Cincinnati couldn't get him. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, there's it would definitely be an edge rusher. Maybe Jerry Hughes, who's but the Texans, they're not exactly going anywhere. I'm just looking at names that are that are floated out there that would be decent fits. It would be someone just to help for pass rush. Again, just for depth. After Hendrickson, I mean, Sam Hubbard is really good. He gets a lot of pressures, but he doesn't get the productivity usually that Hendrickson has. But yeah, I don't see anybody. Quinn would have been the only one that I would have said would be worth it. But Bengals value draft picks.
Yeah.
If they make any trade, it's a draft pick swap. They're not just giving up draft picks for a player. It's going to be trading some crap out there. It's trying to get rid of Jack Carmen for something. So
yeah, I think he's probably more likely to be released than traded at this point.
Most likely, yeah.
All right, Joe. I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Riverfront Bengals show. Any parting words?
One last thing, non-Bengals, non-football related. I voted early yesterday. I encourage everybody who has the ability to vote. First of all, everyone should vote, period. Regardless, conservative, liberal, whatever. Get your ass out and vote. No excuses. If you've got the ability to vote early, get your ass out and do it. So the people that can't vote early has shorter lines, have to miss less work, easier for everyone else to get in and out. So that's all I got.
It's your American duty. I love it. Joe, thank you once again. Had a great time. And yeah, thank you to everybody for tuning in. That's going to wrap it up. And we will see you next week. Take it easy.